Hey, Mac. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. We got some breaking news.
Oh,
I'm just gonna. It's just a teaser, but I'm going to get it set up. So while I do that, why don't you we'll talk about our first book?
sure. Let me pull up our cover here. So we continued the ongoing big, I guess you could call it the big crossover event that's happening right now. And that's Heroes Reborn. We had number 4 come out today. I really liked this one. I've liked this series as a whole a lot more than I thought I was going to, for sure. I thought the art was really, really stunning in this. I mean, the character Dr. Spectrum lends himself very well to some really, really cool, colorful art. So I definitely saved quite a few pages of this because I really like the artwork on it.
Yeah, so I'm torn on this issue. I liked where it ended up. I felt like the Rocket Dr. Spectrum thing went on a little too long. And for, I want to know so much more about the story, and the Rocket thing didn't really move that forward. I mean, it did in big picture, but nothing was revealed in battle except some cool things he can do with Groot. And, but then, I guess in the end, I was very pleased. I actually like the backup story. I guess I'd call it a backup story more. I feel like you get a little bit more characterization in it. But if you watched WandaVision and you were wondering where Mephisto is going to show up, I really want to know if this book was written before all that blew up.
Yeah, that is very interesting. There was a really, really cool ending to this that was kind of alluded to in, I want to say it was a ghostwriter title, maybe a couple of weeks before all of Heroes Reborn started. So it was kind of hinted at before, but still caught me off guard for sure. I also the character of Dr. Spectrum is so interesting to me. He's so hateable. Like he's the main character. He's the hero of this story, but there is just something so unlikable about this character, and it makes it so interesting. It's similar to the way that we felt about John Walker in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. He has that same sort of vibe, and it just makes for a very interesting character and story.
I will say he's very hateable when he's battling Rocket, but then he's the one character that kind of realizes something's wrong here. Right. And
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to spoil anything, but I think at some point in the story, you realize some character is going to realize something's wrong here. And you almost, you hate him so much. And then you hate him a lot less just because he's questioning things and he doesn't really know, you feel like he could become a hero, redeem himself in a way.
I could see that, but I could also see it going the exact opposite direction. He's the one that's most, tied into this reality and rejecting of all other realities. So I guess we'll see how that plays out.
But not your pick of the week, right?
Close. I'm pivoting at the last second here, I think. I was between two. I was really torn.
Okay. I'm fine if it is, but you didn't mention it. So before we moved on, I wanted to make sure it wasn't it.
Yeah, no, it is not.
So here's the breaking news. I'm going to try and, can you see that?
Oh, yeah.
Just got this. All we have is the biggest mysteries of Jonathan Hickman's X-Men era burn away in Inferno. Stay tuned for more information on writer Jonathan Hickman's new X-Men series coming in September.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, there's so much going on with the X universe right now. I'm so curious as to where that's going.
So that's our breaking news, but we'll get back to some comic books.
Yeah, so let's jump into our second title here. And by the way, I'm really curious to know what your pick of the week is going to be for this week, because this was another one of those lineups that was very strong across the board, but I didn't think anything really stood out all that much to me.
I had a real hard time making my pick, and to the point where I'm not sure I have made my pick, but it will probably come out. Yeah, like there's a lot of books like the books I thought I was gonna really love. Maybe took a little bit more of a back seat to the books that I think were surprising. Black Widow, I think, is a good example. I've decided my pick of the week. It's not going to be Black Widow, and my pick of the week is probably not going to be all that surprising when it comes to it. But I did really. This is there's 3 books that to me I really enjoyed this week, and Black Widow is definitely one of them.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I really like the dynamic going on here with Natasha and Yelena. I think adding Anya to this story is very interesting as well. She's always a very intriguing character. And I mean, just the vibe of Black Widow as a character in the comics is always so much fun. There's always a level of mystery to this character, and that always makes things really interesting. You never fully know what she's thinking. It always seems like she has a plan that we're not aware of. And that always just, adds another layer to it.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I think you said it all perfectly. There was just a lot of layers to it. Not an action-focused episode or issue. It was just definitely. It was almost like an Ant-Man style espionage. I mean, which Black Widow is, but like there's just so many different moving parts, and you can see different people playing it. But it's nice that with White Widow, you have sort of someone who Black Widow can play off of as sort of an equal. So normally you can't really trust her, but you feel like you can trust her a little bit more, being honest about her emotions in the situation. So, I mean, this book to me is a sleeper hit. I mean, I know the movie's coming out, and, this title was probably relaunched kind of in time with that, but it's not a big epic crossover, or it's not, something crazy, but it's just a great book month after month.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that within the story, they reference what I like so much about this issue too, is there's a conversation between Natasha and Yelena talking about Natasha saying she's not used to working with a team. She's used to doing everything on her own. And Yelena says, you've been an Avenger for most of your life. How is that possible? And that's what I like, that this is not, she's not with the Avengers, but she's also not on her own. So we get to see her running the show, but also not just completely alone here, which I really like.
Okay. Next we got The Marvels, which I think is going to be my pick of the week.
Okay.
This is a long game title. This is something you're going to, read and think about, and, it's not one issue after another, but there was just, they tease the reveal of the character's uncle. Mm-hmm. And when you find, when you see who it is, it's not like some big, like shocking, like final page reveal. It's just, yep, here he is. And I think that was really cool. There's different, you have the Punisher, you have Black Cat. You got many references like to the SpiderMan folks, and just loving this title.
Yeah, I think when we did the first issue, I made it my pick of the week, and I considered it here, but I thought, so the first issue was, like you said, this is a long game kind of story here, where they're really setting things up, and this issue was more of that. We got to know Kevin a little bit more, this new character here on the cover there, but I didn't make it my pick of the week because it is more of the same from what we got in the first issue, and it is, taking time to set things up. I did really like it, though, and I'm definitely interested to see where it goes. It seems like there might be some strange time travel, maybe, stuff happening. There's definitely something big going on for sure that we know at the end of this book. Also, Agent May making an appearance is pretty cool. So that was a nice surprise. And then, yeah, like you said, finding out some information about Kevin and his uncle was pretty cool. So seeing his connection to this whole story.
And when you see a name like Kurt Busiek, a lot of times when creators that have the legendary career they have, they kind of stick with their characters, right? Like, and I don't just mean the characters created, but, the classic characters. But to see Arrow make an appearance, like, it makes a statement that this book is going to span the Marvel universe, and not just the Marvel universe of like Kurt Busiek's glory days. Not that he's still not doing great work, obviously, but it's not sort of one of those, kind of like Peter David specials, which are great books, but it's like, here's a story that took place when I wrote this story, and like here's answering questions, or here's something that took place in between those issues, and this is happening sort of in the Marvel universe as we know it, which is cool.
Yeah, and you mentioned like all those classic characters, and we are getting this balance of new characters here as well. Like we talked about Kevin already, but there's also Threadneedle, who's this very mysterious, maybe villain. We're not really sure yet. He's talking to somebody named Ace. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where that goes.
He looks like a villain.
Yeah.
But then he talks like a hero, right?
Yeah. It seems like one of those cosmic characters that has this huge power and is like, all of this is for the greater good, but we don't really know if we can trust that. So our next issue here, one that we had talked about not being all that excited for going into this story, but I think we've kind of turned on it after the first issue. This is the Miles Morales Spider-Man, the second part of the Clone Saga. What were your thoughts on this one?
I liked it. What I think makes Miles Morales special is when he's Miles Morales. It's not so much about web slinging, right? Like then I could just read Spider-Man. But I liked about the sort of mentorship role that Peter had with Miles in this issue. The relationship of his family and friends in this issue, talking about that. They have this beautiful splash page of like him writing an essay for school, right? Nothing to do with anything crazy, but it was just sort of a glorious sort of who is Miles Morales. I mean, not in terms of a Wikipedia page, but in terms of who he feels like. And I thought that was good. I would say, it does fall into some tropes here, and it definitely feels like like a lot of other clone stories that eventually happen and these kinds of things. But what makes it special is how that it's Miles doing it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think they're also adding a level of humanity to these clones, at least to one of the clones that we haven't really gotten to see in some of the other stories. I'm really liking this group of clones. They are all so different. And like I said, one of them, the main one, Salim, I suppose his name is, which is Miles backwards, but they gave a name or a reason or a explanation to his name, which was really cool. Also, I'm glad you mentioned that big splash page, because this was another one where I loved the art in this book as well. There were actually a couple of splash pages like that, one of them more dedicated to action, and then there's a big full page of Peter Parker swinging in. I do have an issue with Peter giving his lessons to Miles, because it's so hard to believe them, because he doesn't take his own advice ever. Like, he's talking about managing, your personal life with your Spider-Man life, and he doesn't do that ever. That's what all of his stories are about.
Well, and what I thought was interesting, and I don't know if this was even in the writer's mind, but with what was going on with Kindred, like, that makes me look at this in a different light. Like, yeah. Like, if I just read Miles Morales and wasn't paying attention to Amazing Spider-Man, like, I would think, like, okay, it's, Spider-Man just giving advice from like 8 billion, 50 years of adventures or whatever. And no, but with Kindred, where like that is the point, like it kind of adds in a whole other level to it, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah, I do agree. I agree on that. This is actually going to be my pick of the week as well. And this surprised me. I didn't expect to get really into the Clone Saga, but then again, I didn't expect to get really into Heroes Reborn either. So, like we said, some of these issues have been surprising us lately.
Absolutely.
And our final issue of the week will be the new series. And this is one of those characters that is it Reptile? Is it Reptil? Is it Reptile?
Oh, I just always presumed it was Reptil.
Reptil? Okay, we can go with that. So this is his new series here that just kicked off today with issue number 1. What were your thoughts on this one? I know you were looking forward to this one.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny because, like, I came and went with comics. Now I'm kind of stuck because I have to do the show. But, like, you move and you got to find new comic stores and get out of the habit. It's life. But one of the titles I read early on in sort of the Marvel, after the Marvel acquisition, was Avengers Academy, which he was a member of, and kind of like the class president, I guess, whatever. And so I'm excited to have the character back. I felt a little bit like this was a clip show. This was and I understand he's not been like a prevalent character, so you kind of need to reestablish who he was. And then, I felt like to kind of beat some horses to death in the title about like some of his characteristics, in a way that makes it super accessible. And I can't go like act like I'm new to the character because I'm not. So I don't know how I would feel, but I'm like, I get it. You lost your parents, you're Mexican, and you can turn to a dinosaur because of an amulet. Like they bring those 3 points up all the time, and I thought it was a little repetitive. And as I said, it's not like it's Spider-Man where everyone kind of comes in with like a certain knowledge of who he is. So I get that might be necessary, but in like a 4-issue limited series, you kind of want to get the ball rolling. It's almost like a 0 issue is kind of how I felt about it.
That's a very good way to put it. Yeah. I'm on the kind of not the complete opposite end of the spectrum here, but I am not super familiar with the character. I had read a few crossover things with him in them and seen him here and there, but didn't really know too much of his backstory. So I did like that they gave us a lot of his story in this issue. I mean, there was a couple pages where he literally is telling someone his life story. And so that we get that there, which was helpful. But at the same time, you're right. This is nothing too groundbreaking. This is a young hero whose parents are missing, presumed dead. And I mean, it's almost tropey in that way. Like there's so many characters that are like that. And so we spent a lot of time learning his story. Very, very little action. I think it's maybe the last 3 or 4 pages of this have all of the action, which is fine for a first issue. But you're right, with a limited series, you do kind of want to move along a little bit faster. We'll see. I thought it was okay for a first issue. So I'm interested to see if they can pick things up moving forward.
Yeah. I mean, I'll definitely pick up issue 2 because I do like the character.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's jump into some news here. And we did have a pretty big Marvel reveal this week. So we got the teaser for Eternals, finally.
It's interesting. You don't normally see a Marvel movie where it has like the cast so present in the
poster. It is interesting. And I mean, there are some stars in this movie, but it's not like there have been movies with bigger stars or more stars in them. So this is yet, first time we're really seeing it like that. So that is strange. What were your thoughts on the teaser itself?
I like it. I just don't know what it is. And I kind of didn't want to do much digging because there's a lot of Marvel to come before this. And it's you can always tell like when Marvel tries to do a new franchise, right? Like they'll do a trailer, kind of tease it, and then at the end they always gotta like make sure this takes place in the MCU, right? So they'll reference some character, or there'll be something where they'll be like, "Oh yeah, no, this is one of the good Marvel movies. Like we're in the MCU."
Yeah, we're allowed to say these names here,
right?
I agree. Granted, it's just the first teaser. It didn't give us much information at all. It looks beautiful. Like it is a very visually stunning looking movie. But yeah, they didn't give us a ton of information. I've read some Eternals, not a whole lot. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you here. I am excited for it because I'm going to be super pumped up about any MCU project coming out. But I've read some Eternals, and I'm not entirely sure they're going to stick to the basics here because Eternals can get absolutely just bonkers. But we don't really get much of what the story is going to be here. I don't love that last scene that you mentioned where they are talking about, who can lead the Avengers. And the line comes from Icarus at the end, right? Where he says, I think I could lead them. And that is so not an Icarus line when you have Dane Whitman in this movie. And that is a character who would 100% be like, oh, I can lead the Avengers. And yet it's not coming from him. It's coming from a very different character. Granted, we don't know what his role will really be in this movie. So I'm not sure what we can expect to see. And that's Kit Harington playing Dane Whitman, which I'm really excited about. So it's going to be fun, but I'm not sure what to expect, to be honest.
Well, and also let's be 100% clear. Marvel views trailers as a way to manage your expectations, in that there's been things that we've seen in trailers that don't exist in the movie. We've seen scenes altered in the trailer to kind of throw you about what's going to happen in the movie. So it's, one thing that's nice about Marvel trailers is you don't have to really worry about getting spoiled, because they do it in such a way that it's part of the storytelling, essentially, right? Like, they want you to have these bits because they want you to go in with this being your expectation, and then whatever they do in the movie, they do in the movie. And so it's hard to get too worked up about it, but Chloe Zhao just won Best Picture, Best Director at the Oscars. This movie was made in the can, a while. So I'm just excited to get it out and see what it's the only other time we've had a Marvel movie like this was Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Where there was a team where we didn't know the team,
right?
Where they came on board, and this is a little bit different because they're sort of more of like has a more of a family feel from the beginning. It's not just sort of pick up characters on the way, at least presumably. Superhero team-up movies are notoriously difficult, particularly when they're origin stories. Like Avengers, when you know everybody and you can kind of just squeeze it into 2.5 hours, great. But what made, I think, Guardians so impressive was they were able to kind of crack that nut, and Justice League didn't.
Even if you gave them 4 hours, it still didn't quite.
Right. So I'm excited to kind of see where it is. It's interesting to me. We know a lot of things spinning out of different things. We don't know anything spinning out of Eternals yet, and I'm sure there will be. But it'll be interesting to see where this journey takes us. Because in Marvel, you sort of have it in two different places. You have the product itself, whether it's WandaVision, Falcon Winter Soldier, Eternals, whatever, and then you have the role it plays in the MCU. And sometimes you got to watch those things on two different levels, because maybe it's not the greatest storytelling, but it sets up great. Everything in Marvel is great, but you might not love the story or the plot, but you love what it sets up, or you can just love the plot and necessarily, worry about what it takes place. And so I'm curious to see all of that as we get closer to the fall.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it. It can absolutely set up some very big things and completely change the MCU going forward. So we'll have to see when we get there. And that will be, I want to say November 5th, off the top of my head, I believe is the date for Eternals. Yes, November 5th. So that's the third movie we have on the schedule for this year. But speaking of upcoming MCU projects, we got character posters today for Loki. And you can see, obviously, Loki there. We also got a poster for Mobius, and then Ravonna, who I'm very interested to see what her role is going to be in this series. She obviously in the comics has some connections to Kang the Conqueror, so very interested in that. And then Hunter B15 is also has their own character poster, so you can check those out right now on laughingplace.com.
Cannot wait. 2 weeks to go.
Yeah, we are almost there. And speaking of Loki, we also got the new Loki Magic Band now available in the Walt Disney World parks. You can see here, I believe Jeremiah picked up his own Magic Band yesterday at Disney's Hollywood Studio, so we know at least you can find it there. But it's also available on Shop Disney as well. Is this one that you would pick up?
I would not buy a Magic Band.
Fair enough.
Free ones and gift ones and all that. And they're going. They're essentially glowing away.
That's true. That is true, but they still make a nice little accessory piece, and this one has Miss Minutes on it, so that's so.
No, and like I like Miss Minutes, and I like the art. It just I'm not going to put it on my wrist, and so there we
go. So I did get to watch the town hall for the Old Man Star-Lord podcast that will be coming out pretty soon, and I'm very interested in this podcast now. Marvel's Wastelanders, Old Man Star-Lord, with Tim Bushfeld, Danny Glover, Vanessa Williams, all in this cast here. It's definitely very interesting story. With being set in the future of the Marvel universe, with most of your favorite heroes being dead at this point. So it's a very different story. You can check out our recap of this event on laughingplace.com right now. Some interesting insights from the cast of this, especially from Vanessa Williams playing Emma Frost. It was really interesting hearing her talk about playing that character. But we also got some announcements that the next podcast in this series will be Old Man Hawkeye, which is pretty interesting. That should be a lot of fun as well. And that'll be Stephen Lang playing Old Man Hawkeye. And then we also learned that the next one after that will be Grey Widow, so an older Natasha Romanoff, who will be voiced in the podcast by Susan Sarandon, which is interesting.
Grey Widow just seems insulting.
It's a little unfair, yeah. But I do love that casting of having Susan Sarandon play.
Yeah, they got some big names.
Grey Widow. Yeah, they did. I was really surprised, honestly, by the amount of stars in this podcast. It's such a different medium for a lot of them. So we did have some new Marvel merchandise as well. We have the what is the official name for these? Marvel Through the Ages Patriotic Age Funko Pop. There we go. That's what we have here. And then we took a look at these during streaming day and kind of shared our thoughts then. But I like this Captain America one, which, by the way, I didn't notice then, but now I have since realized this is Sam Wilson Captain America here. And then we actually have...
How do you tell?
Well, so the eyes are different. Here's Steve Rogers. And he's got the shield and everything still. And then you got Captain Marvel. There's Spider-Man again. And then there's Sam Wilson with the Falcon goggles.
Got it.
On there. So, and you can see it says from Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, now I see it. I just.
So yeah, that's our first one. We also have the new Obadiah Stane / Ironmonger figures from Hasbro, the Marvel Legends series.
That is really cool.
Yeah, this is a really, really awesome set. I love the scale, the Ironmonger being so much bigger than the Jeff Bridges figure, because everybody wants a Jeff Bridges figure added to their collection.
Who doesn't, right?
But this was also released with, let me get down here. Here we go. The Iron Man Mark III figure as well. And obviously this is going all the way back to Iron Man, as Hasbro has been releasing these Infinity Saga figures sort of all over the place with it, because we got some Infinity War, we got some Endgame, now we're back at Iron Man. And we also got another Infinity War figure with Captain America, Steve Rogers, Captain America here, with the Wakandan shields he's got as his accessories. So another nice addition to your collection, especially if you're just a big fan of the MCU. So the big thing we have coming up is Avengers Campus, which we're next week. We're just over a week away from the opening of Avengers Campus. And,
I would just to plug us a little bit, we have a full coverage plan, which we're not ready to reveal, but follow us, next week, after the holiday, because we got a lot, I know we've been doing countdown to Avengers Campus every day. Mac's done a great job with that. But we'll have a lot more to share next week.
Yeah, and more details coming out. I did want to, I got to toot our own horns here, because we teamed up to break down. Let me see if I can zoom in on this, see if you can see it at all. No, apparently not. Doesn't seem to want to work on that. But There are some numbers here on the back of this giant chocolate bar, and this is in the seating area for PIM Test Kitchen. And here we go. There, you can zoom in a little bit. So these numbers here, so it's 6010 1964. So it is referencing a comic, Tales to Astonish, which was featured the Incredible Hulk and Giant Man on the cover. So that's the code for this comic here. And you can see this chocolate bar is Choco Smash, by the way. So obviously referencing the Incredible Hulk. So you got Giant Man and the Incredible Hulk. And then in the weight of it, and let me see if I can read the exact numbers, 1968, and it is 55.8 grams, which the conversion actually works, which was the coolest thing about this Easter egg. And then that actually references Avengers 55, which came out August 19. What was the year again?
68.
Yeah, 1968. Which again features Giant Man on the cover, which was a really fun, cool Easter egg there.
The thought that Imagineering like went through and tried to find like conversions that would end up featuring Ant-Man or Giant Man on the cover, is like mind blowing. It's one of my favorite Easter eggs of all time, just because the conversion works.
Yeah, that is. I would imagine they had to just like play with the numbers and be like, all right, let's find a comic that came out on this day and didn't work. No, or let's try another number. But so that's a really fun.
Who has time for that?
Yeah, somebody definitely spent too much time on that. As far as Avengers Campus goes, we also got to look at the park map, if you can see here, which has been added to the Disney California Adventure guide map, and you can also find it in the Disneyland app right now as well. So we're getting close. We are almost there to the opening of Avengers Campus. I cannot wait to see what it actually looks like in person.
That is the understatement of the year. Cannot wait. I mean, and I know we're only getting one attraction, but it's just going to be so much fun just to be there. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's so much more than the attraction, because all the character experiences. Right. I can't wait to try all the food. I'm really looking forward to that. Seeing it at night, the whole the Doctor Strange area of this looks like it's going to be really, really cool at night. So I am really looking forward to it.
Me too. Cannot wait. Next week's a big week.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is all of our news for this week. Did you have anything else before we wrap up for today?
Follow us tomorrow. We'll have some more Marvel Hasbro figures to talk about too. So check that out tomorrow morning around 8:00.
And I will say, if you haven't watched MODOK on Hulu yet, absolutely go check it out. I have burned through the entire 10 episodes. Really loved it. I'm already ready to rewatch it. So
I'm about 4 or 5 episodes in. I don't know exactly where we left. I kind of had to stop because it hurt laughing that much in a row. So I was like, I need a little bit of a break to appreciate it, just savor it. So I'm really looking forward to it, seeing the rest. But it's fun. I mean, it's definitely TVMA, just to be upfront, but not. But in a fun way. It's not It's not too crazy, yeah. Right.
I compared it to things like Family Guy and South Park. I think that's probably about on the same level.
Yeah, I would say so. And does in a way that makes a point, which is the fun of it. It's not just done to do it.
And you're doing it the right way. You should savor it the way Iron Man savors the Great British Bake Off.
Right, exactly. Actually, I was trying to figure, because that's in the first episode, right? And I was trying when I was like, oh, we should stop now. I was like, was I influenced by Tony Stark? Did that subconsciously come in where I was like, no, I need to stop watching to savor it. So,
well, if you're going to be influenced by Tony Stark, there's definitely a lot of ways that would be a bad thing, but this is a good one.
Yeah. So no demons in a bottle here.
Okay.
But anyway, no, and we got a lot going on. All day tomorrow. Today at 4, you're on TV Club to talk about MODOK, aren't you?
Yes. Yeah, we'll be talking some more about MODOK.
Great. Well, thanks so much for joining us, everybody. and see everyone there.
Bye.